The title of this video is Think Like a 60-year-old. I've titled it this way because it's a mindset that if you adopt will change the way you interact with people. Now, this is the general idea, and I'm just gonna say it right now. Would the future version of you still do the same thing you're doing now in the future? Would you still care about what other people have to say or think that you're doing currently? Would you really care about that? If the answer to that is no, then you found your answer. You should just not think about the people, just not give a fuck about what others gotta say or do, you know? So that's the idea of the Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, the book by Mark Manson. And the basic premise of this whole concept is that if you think like a 60-year-old, you'll be much more wiser and knowledgeable. And you'll act like that person if you think like that person, if you get what I mean. If you think that you're someone much older, you're gonna act older in the moment, in the present now. And that way you're gonna cut out a lot of your bad habits. You're gonna think for your future self than your present self. You're not gonna do a lot of instant gratification. You're gonna think, you're gonna delay gratification, right? Now, while this may sound good in the paper, or it might be a good theory, you could say, right? Now, there are some downsides, you could say. One downside I've noticed is that you won't get good relationships with people that are like your age. Damn, the bike. So you're not gonna have much more meaningful conversations with the people around your age, because they're gonna be into their own kind of bubble. They're gonna be into their own things they're interested in. But here you're interested in watching self-improvement videos. Like you've been following creators like Hamza, First Man, and things like that, right? You found like your own group, your own tribe. And now this is another step in your journey. Think like someone who is older, and that way you'll improve faster. You'll become a much more better version of you. But for that to happen in the future, you gotta sacrifice the relationships you have now, because, well, people might just not want to be around you. Because if you're just gonna do all those boring things that you've been doing, like reading, you've been watching podcasts, things like that, right? They don't find it interesting. And you just have to deal with it, I guess. Which is kind of hard. It's hard for me as well. But honestly speaking, there are actually people who are also interested in self-improvement, just like you. And you're bound to find people like those, and they'll be your actual friends, you know? Now, I want to talk about the pain of regret versus pain of fear. Now, this ties into the idea of thinking like your future self, because, well, in your dying bed, would you want to still think? Do you still want to die knowing that you could have done something, or you want to die knowing that you at least tried doing something, you know? And that's the concept. Pain of regret is much more sacrificial to your happiness than pain of fear, because this is something I've gotten from David Goggins, right? Let's say you're in the heaven and you speak to God. And when you're speaking to God, he shows you the version of you that you could have become. But then you're fat, you're lazy, you're skinny, you have no muscles, and you'll be there looking at who you could have become, right? You looking at who you could have become, and you have to die like that. You have to go to, let's say, hell, heaven, or whatever, knowing that you could have become someone else. Now that's scary for me. I honestly can't live like that. Like, just imagine, like, you could be someone else right now if you just chose to do something else in the past. Any one decision. Let's say you decided to actually follow along with a friendship that you had in the past, but you decided to quit because you were being a jackass, right? So yeah, definitely like I'm really considering just not having any regrets in whatever I'm doing. And if I do have regrets, then that's just really sad. And I don't wanna I don't wanna think about it. So yeah, point is to just conquer your fears. Whatever your mind gives you, just do it. Just I think that's what David Goggins does as well. Whatever he gets the thought of, but he doesn't want to do that thing, he just does it anyways because he wants to conquer that lizard brain. And that's how he's improving so much, because he's just been saying, oh, it's sunny outside, it's raining outside, I'm under the blanket, let's snooze for 5 more minutes and let's not go for the run. Now that might not be realistic, but if you get that thought, what David would do, he would just actually just get up right then and there, put it on his shoes and just go do it, right? And that's the person who you want to inspire to be. Because that way you're going to have no regrets, because you're going to conquer your mind and you'll just be a very strong person in the end, right? Now, a point that I said from before that I just thought of, like that I wrote down in the paper, is you're thinking like if you're like me and you think like, if you're like me and you think that you're much older than the people you are now, it's because you're influenced by older people. If you're influenced by a lot of older people around you, then you're gonna think like those older people. And that's the problem with me as well. I'm not around people my age that much. I'm more around my parents, right? My dad, mom, my uncles, my aunties, my mamas, or whatever you want to say, right? So yeah, it's just about influence in the end. If you influence around the people who are much more older, you're gonna think like that, and that's probably why you are maybe in this video, or you just found this out, right? But yeah, influence has to do with a lot of things, and a big criteria to the reason why you might be thinking like someone who's much more older. All right, so but yeah, that was basically all I wanted to talk about in this video. To sum it up, think like your future self, don't live with any regrets, and that's it. Just those two things. But yeah, with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video, and peace.